And Rob, it is getting tricky. The NBA is about to conclude. Right. There you go. It's tricky to rock a rhyme. That's right on time. It's tricky. Maybe Alex can find that.
Yeah.
Anyway, Run DMC, Alex, digging in the crate.
Oh, thanks, CB.
As if he didn't know that was Run DMC.
I don't know if he knew he wasn't alive then. When were you born, Alex?
I was born 90.
Yeah, he wasn't alive when It's Tricky came
born
out.
in 1990? That's frightening.
What you mean?
Rob was
I think that was Rob's 42nd birthday.
What? I was divorced back then? Wow,
yeah, weren't you?
Wow.
Weren't you?
No,
I think it was your second marriage, right?
Yeah, I was in my second marriage.
No, but it's this NFL season, Rob, is getting a little tricky. Now, look, the NBA is wrapping up what could only be deemed as a really impressive and successful handling of the COVID-19 virus. I mean, they've done a great job in that regard. No positive tests that were reported coming out of that bubble. Really impressive. They obviously were able to play all 8 of their seeding games, and they were able to play the playoffs. And, you know, it's just been smooth sailing. Good for them. Baseball, after a rocky start, you know, with the Marlins and the Phillies.
It was 3 teams and Cardinals. Those were the
Cardinals,
3 teams
yep.
that got hit. Yep. Other than that.
It was looking, you know, shaky. But, yeah, they've gotten through it. They pressed through. Now we're in the playoffs, and it's all good. It's, you know, seems like not a big deal anymore for them. Is football going to be like baseball where you have this early rush of COVID cases and then you're fine? I don't think it's going to be that simple. I hope it is. But it seems like a little more. I mean, you got more players you're dealing with. You've got a full season versus a truncated season like they did in baseball smartly. And the NFL may have to make some changes. Here's the deal. The Titans had 2 more tests today that were positive. So they got 22 people from that organization
That's a lot.
have had positive tests. And now their game Sunday, I believe it's Buffalo, is in jeopardy. Remember,
and that would be 2 games, right?
Yes. Last week's game against the Steelers was postponed. They have the bye week coming up, so they'll be able to play that in the bye week, but they don't have another bye week. So what are you going to do with this game? And then, of course, the Pats game against the Patriots, or the Chiefs game against the Patriots was moved from Sunday to Monday, and Cam Newton, the star quarterback for the Patriots, wasn't able to play. Now, reigning Defensive Player of the Year, Stephon Gilmore for the Patriots has it.
And even worse, if you're a Chiefs fan, Gilmore and Patrick Mahomes were rapping after the game, and they said in close quarters, you know, like just talking Chris one-on-one.
Right.
And they're hoping that Patrick Mahomes maybe didn't contract it with his close they were doing some close talking.
Yeah, it was, you know, after a game, guys talk. And I think, Rob, one thing they need to do is ban, don't shake hands after the game. Just both teams go to your locker room. I think that's what they have to do. It won't be viewed as bad sportsmanship because everybody will know the deal. But that's what happened. I mean, they were just, you know, guys talk after a game. You might know a guy, or even if you don't, you know, you say your pleasantries, and that was that. But that may, you know, who knows if that. You hope obviously Mahomes didn't get it, but because guys should be quarantined for like 2 weeks, right, or roughly 10 days, 7 to 14 days, whatever it takes.
I think it's a little on the shorter end. I don't think anybody's getting
the
14 days. But you know what I mean, yeah.
But that may be what they need to do. You're right. They're not going to – if they can avoid it, they're going to avoid
14
that
days, I don't think they're trying to do that. And that was my biggest argument, Chris, about the non-testing on game day. And that's what we think – remember we talked about this, that they were afraid that, you know, guys would come up positive game day.
Right. There was a report that they felt they wouldn't get the testing back in time, you know, even though in time. Obviously, Sundays would be tough.
Sunday morning
early.
when you wake up. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm talking about for the rapid.
Saying they wouldn't get them
the
back
rapid
in
test.
time. Yeah. But look, now they may have to make some changes. Pro Football Talk reported that there are several coaches that are suggesting they go to a 12-game season instead of 16, which, Rob, I think makes sense. I think it makes sense. Spread the season out a little bit. 12 games instead of 16. Or were they playing 17 this year? I don't know if this was the year.
No, I
were
think
playing.
next year.
Is that next year? This might be the year.
Bo, was it this year or next year? Next year, I thought it was.
Let us know, Bo. But I think this is the year they were going to 17.
Is it really? I don't know. When I look at the schedule, I didn't count the
games.
games.
They changed it. But whatever the case.
It might have been, Chris. You might be right that it was supposed to be, but then with the COVID that they didn't do it.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think they only had 16 on the schedule. But I think they should go to 12. That gives you some wiggle room. So, again, the Bills
in case you have to cancel some games moving forward. Yep. And you have to, the way baseball played the doubleheaders, Chris, because you remember they played 60 games in roughly 65 days. So there were the doubleheaders. They did whatever they had to do to get the games in. And in football, that might be the case too, because you're already looking at the Titans are be in a tight spot already if they don't get to play this game, right? Only 16 this year. That's what I thought.
But I think, like you said, this was supposed to be the year they went to 17, but because of COVID, they didn't. This is greed, though, Rob. And I get it. I mean, it's not just greed, but the owners do want to make as much money as they can, and that's not just greed. There are jobs on the line, and not we're not talking about the big wigs. We're talking about regular, everyday people that work in the NFL, that work for these teams. So I get it. But this is just a different circumstance.
Speaking of that, I mean, look at the airline industry, Chris. It's on the brink. I mean, if they don't get money soon, it will be a catastrophe of all the people that will be laid off in the airline industry.
Yeah, and that's where you have to, you have to weigh carefully the balance between health and the economy, because the economy is important.
Right. You also can't put people in harm's way to save it is a delicate balance.
Yes.
And the same thing is what's going on in the NFL. I get it. They're talking about in Florida, Chris, letting 62,000 people come to games. At all.
That just seems ridiculous.
That seems shocking to me, given where we are. Maybe if
I
this
know
was
their
week
governor
4,
opened up the state to everything, like back to normal. And this is just more of that, but that just seems crazy to me. Crazy.
I doubt 62,000 people would show up. I think that
I don't know. That's a good question. That's a good question.
I think a lot of people. I'm not saying that some wouldn't, Chris, but I doubt that they would get a full house. I would be shocked if they packed the stadium. Just where we are, what we've seen.
And
you just
the
saw
president just
got it. This is what I'm saying. Like the people in the Oval Office close to him. I mean, I think if you had any ounce of doubt, Chris, about what this is about and how it can affect people, we've been apart for months now.
Yep.
And people that work back at Fox Sports Radio at the studio and what they have to go through to go to work, or if they go on vacation and to try to keep everybody safe. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah. And but I just think that the NFL, like a bubble. Now there's talk of that too, and it'd be a different bubble obviously than what you had in the NBA. But could you send every NFL team and their employees to a hotel, and they're the only ones in the hotel, and they basically go back and forth from there to the practice facility, and then games? That's a lot to ask, man.
I think that it's harder because there's so many more people. When you talk about the NBA, Chris, and 15 players and some coaches, and an NFL team with all the assistants, all the people that you need to operate a football team, the number is just so big.
Well, you can't do a bubble with multiple teams in it, but you could take over a hotel. You know what I mean? With your 53 players, and, your assistants and your staff. I mean, you fill up the hotel, but you could do that in every city. My thing with that is that's just a lot to ask for these guys to be apart from their family. Now, the NBA did it, 60 days roughly before their family could come visit them. I think it was something like that. It'd be different for the NFL because kids are in school, right?
Well, but also, too, Chris, the NBA didn't have the travel. The NFL, you're leaving out the travel part.
You would have that.
Which would almost negate being separate the whole time, and then you get on a plane, or then you're traveling to another. I'm just saying.
They could be flying charter. They're flying charter, so they don't. It's not like they go into the airport like you and I. But they'd have to make sure the whole. I don't know how the rest of their traveling party travels, but I think you could do it. They may need to go to that. If they really are intent. But the question is, would the Players Association agree to that? And that's a lot to ask because, again, kids are in school. Now, it might be virtual for most of them, but they're not going to be able to do their normal schooling in a hotel. It already probably is hard for these kids to concentrate the way you do in a normal school day. You know what I mean?
Right.
When you're at home doing it virtual. Can you imagine trying to do it in a hotel? That'd be crazy.
Very crazy.
And it's
asking a lot for people to do it. It just is.
Right. But I don't know, man. I hope that this is just a phase, kind of like it was in baseball, and they can get it under control. But right now, you wonder if it's just the tip of the iceberg. And it's been a good season.
What's your gut about,
My gut is that they're going to.
Will it be like baseball? You get 3 or 4 teams, have some outbreaks, but for the most part, you'll be all right?
Yeah. My gut is that they'll fight through it. And you just have to look, like this week, the Patriots had to play a big game without Cam Newton. That may have to happen, right?
Yeah.
You're just going to have to treat it like injuries.
Hopefully he doesn't have it. I'm sure they're testing him, and they're worried they might have to play a game or so without him.
And if he does, it just has to. It has to be a part of this season, right? You have to miss 2 weeks like
There's
he
nothing
did,
you
like
can
if
do
he had
about
an injury,
it. There's
right?
nothing you can do about it. I mean,
you got to write that into the situation now. But I think they're going to do everything they can to push through it.
All right, Jason in Indiana, you're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio.
Hey guys, thanks a lot. So I want to start by introducing a little bit about myself because I'm actually we're in a new station. 1380 The Fan here in Fort Wayne has just picked you guys up like a month and a half ago.
Oh,
yeah.
great.
So we were on ESPN for years and years and years, and now I get you guys, and I like you guys from what I've heard, and I like Outkick the coverage too. Okay, but let me go into this.
A lot about you.
Right, we got it.
Let me go. All right, so let me go into this. So I'm blind, and my life is all about normalcy and trying to keep things regular. 16-week seasons have been all I've known through my life in the NFL, listening to it. But you guys just brought up a good point that 12 games was normal a while back. Back in the 70s, 12 games was normal. So I get what you're saying about putting the buys in and all that. And if they do it, good on them because there's some health concerns and there's things for that, postponements for that. It's like school building in more days to close.
Right.
But my blindness and everything has just gotten me a tendency towards I'd like to keep things kind of normal, and we've had a horribly unnormal year, and if this is the one thing that stays kind of the same, people would like it.
Well, here's what I'd say, and obviously I get what you're saying about the normalcy, in particularly in your case, but it's not like you would have weekends without football.
Right.
You know
what
I mean?
Everybody wouldn't be playing.
Right. You wouldn't have, 16 games every week. You'd have, maybe 10, or 11 games every weekend.
But you would still have a full slate.
Have plenty of football.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing, Jason, is to do this so that at the end of the year, when you try to figure it out and there are 3 teams that don't have any, haven't played enough games or had, what do? You won't be able to make them up. There'll be like 4 games that the Tennessee has to make up, and there's no place to play them. You know what I mean?
Which to me, Rob, is really problematic in the NFL. Not
yes,
as bad
more
in the
so,
NBA or baseball because you got so many games.
You can't play a doubleheader in the NFL. Chris.
Right. And I mean, I think, and we talked about it a little bit in college, but look, college is not the NFL. If there's a team in the NFL that's 9-3, and then there's another team that's 12-4, like that's a big difference.
Yes.
And when it comes down to playoffs, you could go by percentage. That just doesn't seem fair at all in the NFL when there's so few games already.
Let's squeeze in Jared in Australia, my man. You're on the Odd Couple Fox Sports Radio. What's up?
Yo, what's up, boys? What's up, Alex?
What's up, man?
Look, I like the idea of cutting it to 12. I think it makes sense in terms of for everyone's health concerns. One thing I haven't heard anyone say is, are they going to be able to negotiate the players on less money? Because if there's less games and there's less money, so I think that might be hard. Another thing I just wanted to mention, you guys were talking about a bubble. Here in Australia, we had a bubble for our football, and that seemed to work. The player count not as high as the NFL.
How'd they do it?
They didn't travel, did they?
Or what?
No, okay, so what they did was, because there was border restrictions, you weren't allowed to play in Victoria, which is my state, because we were the heaviest hit with COVID. So what happens was all the teams flew. Most of them went in up north to Queensland, a few into New South Wales, a couple over to Perth. And then so what they did was they had 2 or 3 teams at sort of a resort, and then they would sort of centralise games to, I think they had two stadiums in Queensland, so all the teams played there. They had 2 stadiums in New South Wales, all the teams played there. I know it's a bit different, but the player count's a bit higher than the NBA.
Right,
there was still a little bit of travel, but yeah, it was more so because of the border restrictions were quite strong that they kept 2 or 3 teams in sort of one area.